In present-day times in Los Angeles, a gathering of police is exploring a baffling path that showed up short-term and seems to be an enormous animal. Correspondent Ethan shows up to cover the news. In any case, no one needs to respond to his inquiries, in spite of the fact that he will see a hint. In the field there's an item that seems to be an enormous scope. He snaps a photo and takes it to his office on the grounds that he's certain he's seen this previously. And as Ethan looks at an emblem that he generally wears, he recalls what happened a long time back. At the point when he was a young child, Ethan went with his father to a second-hand shop store. While his father attempted to offer an old edge to Jack, Ethan glanced around and found a baffling box, which opened itself subsequent to detecting his presence and uncovered a colossal scale that sparkled brilliantly. Jack could detect what was happening and claimed to have a respiratory failure. So while Ethan's dad raced to find help, Jack moved toward Ethan to share a story. Legends talked of Goliath snakes called Imoogis, and each 500 years, one snake would be transformed into a heavenly mythical beast to remunerate it for its great deeds. For that to occur, an item known as Yo was required, which the malicious snake Baraki attempted to take for itself. To stop this from occurring, the leaders of Paradise concealed the Yo in Korea, and when the nearby master had a girl named Naren, she was bound to convey the Yo on the winged serpent pigmentation on her shoulder. Tragically, Baraki likewise realized this data and was holding on to return on Naren's 20th birthday celebration. When Yo would get done with shaping inside her, the sky likewise picked two fighters to safeguard the Yo, Haram and his lord Bachun. Haram gained from his lord all about the great Imoogi and visited it at its cavern. Bachun likewise gave him an emblem sent by Paradise that would safeguard him from any risk. Haram's obligation was to ensure that Yo would reach a decent Imoogi and not Baraki when the opportunity arrived, and Naren must be forfeited for it. Anyway, Haram actually invested a ton of energy with Naren and they two turned into a couple. In the long run, Baraki sent his Atrox armed force to go after the town, which couldn't protect itself against the Atrox's strong monsters and mysterious assaults. The fighters started really looking at the shoulders of each and every lady, making a resident enlighten them concerning Naren in return for being let be. At Naren's home, the fighters killed her dad to make her emerge from stowing away and quickly removed her when they saw the imprint on her shoulder. Minutes after the fact, Bachun and Haram went after the warriors to safeguard Nareem. While Bachun kept on battling, Haram took Nareem to the Imoogi cavern, and seeing her in torment, he chose to stop his obligation as a gatekeeper. Subsequent to dropping the emblem for Bachun to view as later, Haram took off with Nareem as opposed to forfeiting her to the great Imoogi. But Baraki tracked down them. What's more, I pursued them. Then, at that point, the animal cornered them on a bluff, and the couple chose to end things instead of being utilized for evil. After the story was finished, Jack gave Ethan the emblem. Furthermore, it made sense that the kid was the rebirth of Haram while he was the resurrection of Bachun. This was their additional opportunity to satisfy their obligation. So Ethan needed to find a young lady named Sarah, who was the rebirth of Naren and furthermore was brought into the world with the winged serpent mark. Whenever he's recollected the entire story, Ethan requests that his companion Bruce assist him with tracking down Sarah with his PC abilities. Anyway, Bruce makes sense of it'll take him some time since there are many young ladies named Sarah with shoulder tattoos. In the meantime, the FBI gets the lab results from the scale and presently knows there's a weird Goliath animal free in the city. At the nearby exercise center, Sarah is watching the information on the television with her closest companion Cognac. At the point when the camera shows the scale that was tracked down on the secretive paths, Sarah is overpowered with a sensation of fear and runs home to track down an old book of charms, which she continues to hold tight the wall to safeguard herself. Afterward, Liquor comes to check on her and doesn't accept her when Sarah offers something horrendous is going to occur. Yet, she persuades her to go out so she can disregard her neurosis. At the bar, Sarah attempts to occupy herself. However, she can't dispose of her trepidation and chooses to leave. In the city, a gathering of men attempts to irritate Sarah, just for an odd homeless person to appear and beat the folks out of nowhere up prior to leaving without saying a word. At the neighborhood zoo, guardian Belafonte hears some abnormal clamors, and when he goes to check, he finds an elephant has been killed by Baraki. Belafonte runs away in dread and soon Baraki leaves too. So when an Atrix general comes searching for signs, he doesn't track down anything. Later at the police headquarters, Sarah is attempting to let the police know what occurred as far as she might be concerned. However, no one accepts that an irregular homeless person could whip 3 people. A columnist thinks the story is fascinating however, and he snaps a photo of her. The following morning, Ethan goes searching for Jack at the store. However, he isn't there. The Atrix general tracks down him and miracles why Ethan isn't searching for Yo. However, at that point, Ethan awakens at his office. His colleague appears with the story from the police headquarters, and when Ethan sees the picture, he can detect this is the right Sarah. Ethan chooses to remain late in the workplace to look for her location. In the interim, Belafonte is attempting to enlighten the police concerning the snake. However, they don't accept him by the same token. Sarah is attempting to leave the station in her vehicle. Yet when she contacts it, scales show up on its surface. Unnerved, she ventures back and catches a cop, who unexpectedly uncovers an enchantment sword and attempts to kill her. At that point Sarah awakens in her bed and starts feeling intolerable torment, so she calls 911 and they take her to a medical clinic. Minutes after the fact, Liquor attempts to visit her companion. However, the emergency clinic assistant won't let her since she isn't family. Cognac also, her beau choose to go to Sarah's home and basically get a garments to bring during appearance hours. Unexpectedly the entire house starts shaking, and when they go outside to check, they find Baraki thundering at them. 2 or 3 attempts to take off, yet they see as their way hindered by this allows Baraki the opportunity to nibble Liquor. However, it tosses her body in the pool when it understands this isn't Sarah. The following morning when Sarah attempts to leave her medical clinic room, just to find the entryway is locked and there's a gatekeeper outside. At the point when she starts shouting, security and medical caretakers need to come to quiet her somewhere near force. In the meantime, Ethan at long last finds Sarah's profile. However, he's unexpectedly hindered by a call advising him to cover a homicide. At the point when Ethan understands the location is equivalent to Sarah's, he surges there and is feeling better to see the dead young lady isn't Sarah. Then, at that point, he hears a neighbor saying she saw a Goliath snake and that the house proprietor is at the clinic. So Ethan goes there straight away. The medical clinic secretary tells Ethan that Sarah has been isolated on the grounds that the imprint on her shoulder might be irresistible, which sounds exceptionally dubious. In the meantime, Belaford is shipped off to see a specialist, who chooses he's insane. At that point, Baraki shows up at the window and Belford attempts to demonstrate his story. However, the snake leaves before the specialist can see it, and Baraki is shipped off the psychological ward. Back to Ethan. He considers what to do when he unexpectedly finds a specialist who remembers him from his accounts, saying he's a major fan. The specialist consents to assist him with seeing Sarah and takes him to her room, where he finds her in a bashful and terrified state since no one accepts her when she offers something perilous is coming. Ethan makes sense of it as of now working out, yet before he can say more, Baraki starts going after the medical clinic. The specialist comes to caution the couple and sends them out through a back exit. Just after they're gone, the specialist uncovers to be Jack utilizing a deception once more, inferring he had I have likewise been a vagrant. Ethan and Sarah find Bruce holding up in his vehicle and promptly take off. Baraki has a go at pursuing them, yet the vehicle is quicker and abandons it. A couple of miles later, Bruce incidentally hits somebody with the vehicle, and Ethan remembers him as the Atrix general from his fantasy. The general needs to catch Sarah, so Bruce takes a stab at shooting him and Ethan hits him with a piece of wood, yet neither can hurt him. Next, Bruce takes the overall's blade. In any case, the blade sheath itself since Bruce isn't its lord, and the general hits Bruce with a shock of enchantment. Then, at that point, he attempts to pursue Sarah once more, just to be unexpectedly hit by an irregular vehicle. Ethan rapidly hauls Sarah into the new vehicle and requests that the driver remove them. Subsequently, Baraki chooses to bring the remainder of his Atrix armed force as reinforcement. In the interim, the FBI begins a gathering to talk about what's happening. Some higher-ups don't have any desire to trust it. Yet there's sufficient proof to demonstrate there's a legendary beast running wild, and every one of the hints lead back to Sarah. Consequently, the specialists get a request to catch the young lady and end her if essential. They likewise send a gathering of warriors to pursue the snake. Finding it concealing in a cavern, the fighters open fire. Be that as it may, the projectiles sit idle and Baraki drives them out of the cavern, where the fighters are rapidly crushed by the overall's enchantment. Minutes after the fact, the driver leaves Ethan and Sarah by the ocean side, requesting that they leave town. After they're gone, the driver discovers she was likewise Jack. Ethan and Sarah take a stroll to examine the dreams they've had and they share a kiss. While Ethan ponders the reality Sarah might need to bite the dust for yo. Then, they go to visit a brain science teacher who works in separating stifled recollections. The teacher entrances Sarah and she starts seeing recollections of the day her dad passed on. However, at that point she continues onward back and sees Nar and also Haram's story. Abruptly Sarah begins gleaming and drifting, meaning the yo has at long last completed the process of shaping. This enlivening has been detected by Baraki, who makes an appearance to begin obliterating the house. Ethan and Sarah get away from in a vehicle, and Ethan calls Bruce to request some help. Minutes after the fact, 2 or 3 meets Bruce at a bistro, and Bruce affirms he's made some things happen to get a helicopter for them. He likewise gives Ethan a firearm regardless of whether Ethan can't stand weapons. Thereafter, Ray shows and reminds Ethan he can't change Sarah's destiny, so the proper thing is to take her to the Imoogi cave. Ethan disregards him and hauls Sarah out of the structure just before Baraki shows up to assault once more. Bruce picks the couple in his vehicle, just for Baraki to toss one more vehicle at them to make them crash. Ethan and Sarah attempt to run once more and end up cornered by Baraki. However, at that point the police open fire on the snake and allow the couple the opportunity to get away, as Baraki pursues them through the city and causes heaps of annihilation. Ethan and Sarah move to the top of the Freedom Building, where the helicopter is hanging tight for them. The second it attempts to take off, Baraki gets it with its mouth. So Ethan takes Sarah leap with him back to the rooftop before the snake crashes the helicopter on the ground. The sky starts obscuring as Baraki gets prepared to gobble up Sarah. Yet the military helicopters show up and start taking shots at it. Baraki battles the helicopters, making large numbers of them crash, however ultimately becoming overwhelmed by their assault. At that point, the general and his monsters show up as reinforcement, and they annihilate everything on their way regardless on the off chance that it's helicopters, tanks, or structures. Sarah and Ethan leave the structure and are found by two FBI specialists, who remove them in their vehicle. At the point when they arrive at a protected distribution center to conceal in, the specialists uncover they've explored the legend and they are familiar with Sarah's fate. One of the specialists attempts to shoot Sarah, however Ethan hops between them to just save her and the slug wounds his arm. At the point when the specialist attempts once more, his accomplice shoots first since he's understood killing two youthful blameless individuals isn't the response. Then, at that point, the specialist gives them his vehicle keys and asks them to make the best choice. Minutes some other time when the couple is out and about, the overalls monsters appear and start shooting fireballs at them. One raises a ruckus around town and makes it flip, causing the accident to take the couple out. At the point when Ethan awakens, he finds himself attached to a post in Baraki's refuge. Sarah is hauled to the special raised area to be forfeited to the snake, yet just before she can be eaten up, Ethan's franticness to save her at last enacts the pendant. A brilliant light from paradise stirs things up around town pendant and the entire Etrix armed force, right away taking out Baraki and killing every other person with the exception of the general. The consuming pendant breaks the rope and Ethan runs towards the raised area to battle the general, just to get handily overwhelmed. At the point when the general attempts to land his last strike, he incidentally raises a ruckus around town and winds up dead by the sorcery. Baraki awakens and tosses Ethan away prior to pursuing Sarah. Anyway, at that point the great Imoogi at last appears and stars battling Baraki. As the beasts participate in an enraged fight, Ethan needs to take the risk to get away. However, Sarah sees that the great Imoogi is losing, lastly acknowledges her fate. She gathers the Yi Jiao and sends it to the great Imoogi, who right away awakens and changes into an incredible mythical beast. With this new power, the winged serpent effectively overcomes Baraki and kills it for good with a fireball. A while later, the mythical serpent comes to keep an eye on Ethan, who is holding Sarah's oblivious body. The mythical beast ousts the Yi Jiao for a couple of moments to change Sarah's body into her unadulterated embodiment, and she will show up before Ethan to let him know she cherishes him and that they'll see each another again sometime in the not so distant future. Then Sarah turns out to be important for the Yi Jiao and the mythical serpent gets it to go to paradise with Sarah's tears in its own eyes. Ethan watches them with trouble, and when he turns around he sees Jack's soul vanishing too as he compliments him for making the best decision. The end. If you like this story, please subscribe to the channel and like it to motivate me to bring you more stories like this.